So we were having a debate about whether it's black and white or gray. Go ahead.
So, and I'm not saying this is like, obviously if they can choose how they want the movie to be. Obviously, a movie like Kingdom of Heaven is more like the whole time you're like, okay, these are the protagonists, but are they really right? Yeah. This whole time, there's never a point where you're like, maybe they shouldn't be fighting the British. Like, obviously they're right.
Well, I mean, I think that goes on with history. I think they were probably pretty patriotic.
But other than, first of all, a German guy did this.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And so the other thing I was going to say about that is, obviously, me personally, being very patriotic, very American, I love this movie so much, but I feel like if I was like a Scottish dude or something and watched it, I'd be like...
Then again, I get into Braveheart.
That's what I'm saying. It's like Braveheart. Like, we're not even Scottish, and we're like, that's awesome.
I know.
But like for this movie, I feel like you have to be American to really appreciate it, because there's not.
I ultimately appreciate it because we're the ones that live in the country.
Well, also we would all like to think we would do what every man does and stand up and fight for our country, like when it's needed. Like
that leads me to what I said, bro. You mentioned in the movie you were like that the militia, the rough guys that he recruits to the tavern are kind of like the Republicans.
But just to talk to Noah about what he was saying, other than the evil guy, none of them are totally good or totally evil.
I'd say Cornwall.
I'd say the British, while they're not totally evil, are completely in the wrong though. There's no ever point in the movie where they kind of justify what they're doing there.
Right, but it's not a gray movie. I agree with you on that one. It's not a morally gray movie. But they don't make it bad. Like, it's there's enough there.
I think that Cornwallis is kind of a...
that's what I was thinking.
I think that
each individual person is portrayed as a human being.
But even if the British they go about doing what they're doing in a somewhat reasonable manner, they're still invading America, and there's never a point in the movie where it's like maybe they are trying to keep Britain together, or they're literally just wrong.
Yeah, granted, and morally morally gray movies can be very entertaining, but I do also think that there's a place for black and white.
I think in this movie, I mean, they should be. I think this is a movie that can definitely.
I think that actually,
this movie was great.
Black and white movies are underappreciated. Actually,
for sure, they are, especially nowadays. I'm just saying, as far as strife and nuance, and maybe you won't be as entertained if you're not very patriotic or you're not very.
Now there is a bit of there's never questioning whether the British cause is good, but there is a lot of questioning on whether the American cause is good during the beginning of the movie.
No, they're saying if it's worth it. That's different. Everybody wants to be free. They're just saying, is it worth going to war?
There's that loyalist guy who literally says it's treason to speak of.
That's true.
Yeah, that guy is
He's like, give me that torch. But I have to agree more with
I do know. Actually, just real quick, that guy gave a great performance. Whoever played the, I believe his name's Adam Baldwin. He played the
how does this man do it?
He plays this loyalist guy that we're talking about, and in that church scene, he fights for the British instead of his country, basically. He's American. And in that church burning scene, I mean, he does it, but you can just see that look of... He literally says, there's no honor in this. And you just see that look in his eye. Yeah, I know.
Wait, guys, I forgot a positive. The French guy.
The French guy! Out of all the cool side characters, we forgot the French guy, man.
Now, he's not even a cool side character. He is a positive.
Yeah, that's him.
I
love the line
he just
that
brings
says
that,
he's gonna, when they're doing the final battle.
He's like, if I die,
I'm gonna die well dressed.
But anyway, but continue that. What were you?
I was saying something. I said I had to agree more with Noah and Nate at the same time. I know this is weird, but I feel like the British, when they burned it, not one of the soldiers was like, those are multiple children. That's not right. And at the same time, the Americans at not one point, the only point that I remember is when they shoot the British in the swamp.
Yeah.
When they were like, we surrender, and they shot him. That was the only point, and that wasn't even is the cause, right? That was saying, should we just murder innocent people?
Yeah.
No, I guess not. Yeah, that wasn't even really. So I have to agree with.
I'd say it's more of just an interesting. I don't think that's a negative.
Like I said,
is it a negative or more just kind of like
morally gray movies are not necessarily better. In fact, I think black and white movies are almost better and very unappreciated.
Imagine
I think this would need to be black and white. My negative would be they could have given the bad guys more reason to do what they did, and the good guys more reason to do what they did.
Well, I think, I said, it does give...
movie.
It's a black and white star movie.
I
think, has to be American to appreciate it.
I don't think you have to. I think I've watched foreigners watch this movie and they really get into it just because of the drama.
So that would be my negative because it is a very
just like I can watch just. Well, I mean, see, I would say that I can watch a movie like, for instance, we talked about Braveheart, or and get into that just because of the drama of it. It's a good story.
But I think it's easier to get.
Easier.
As a foreigner than to get in the Patriot.
Okay. I wouldn't know.
So, anyways, we
but see, I think it's I put that more in the interesting category, not like the. I don't know if it's like a negative.
But
yeah, what's your?
We can
nitpick, bro.
I'm literally trying to think of one. Besides,
John.
the point of for real, John.
All right, I'll go first. But you just think
I'll keep thinking.
My negative is the character of Charlotte. Not really the writing of her. She's like okay written. It's not terrible. The actress who plays her is a little bit dry. She's just like her line delivery is just like she's like I'm not my sister. No, literally though, she's like I'm not my sister. And
that was so weird.
That was crazy.
And that'll lead me to my next negative. Which is the romance, but anyway, her character is just she acts. It's not the writing; it's just the acting is kind of not subpar. It's just totally meh. It's just like
Does her low collar make you uncomfortable, John?
No, it's just she. I know the actress was. I know the actress Julie Richardson was English, so I felt like maybe she was having a hard time with the accent or something.
Okay, my one flaw was she made a quote saying when. Yeah. In that scene where she sat beside him
she
and
makes
was like,
a futuristic quote.
I'm not my sister. She said, well, it's a free country. And I'm like, oh,
and no,
that's not a phrase.
She does say, or at least it will be.
Yeah, but that's still referring to like that as a quote.
It still makes you think.
Yeah. That pulled me out of the movie.
It did pull me out of the movie.
My other negative also concerns her character. It's the romance between her and Benjamin. It's not terrible. It just feels a little bit forced. Like, you have the romance between Anne and Gabriel, which is a very positive movie. That romance works very well.
Really good one.
And it's a really good. It's a lot of humor involved with it, and it's just great.
Yeah,
that just goes well. Yeah, awesome. A lot of great humor involved with that romance. But the romance between Benjamin and Charlotte feels a little bit forced. It's kind of like I guess they wanted him to get together with somebody again.
It feels like they both are in that situation where I should be with them, so I guess I will.
Dude, I feel like there was literally they sighed before they kissed because she was like, I'm not my sister, and he's like, yeah,
and she's like,
and then she's like, oh gosh, she's not taking the bait. He's like, well, I guess I gotta do this.
She's like literally trying to bait him in
and then so he just grabs her neck, like, okay, here. Yeah. I feel like he literally sighed. And was like,
all right, time for your negative.
It's another historical thing
they do
here.
wrong, Nate.
I love it. We'll get into it.
Here's what they did. Here's what they did.
Oh, well, don't go into the historical and action.
The muskets were way too accurate. Like he was saying, aim small, miss small. Wow. And I said out loud, I said, that musket will miss for you. If you can be the best marksman in the world, and at range, half the time that musket's not going to
honestly get like a modern day Glock and try to make some of those shots.
Oh yeah,
it would be difficult. And they're taking riding, running.
Well, they're I don't think I saw anyone miss a shot that whole movie.
No.
Everyone hit everyone every time.
And the only shots that they missed, they hit them here, in the arm.
I didn't hit him in the heart.
Yeah. What? I didn't get a shot.
But I mean, obviously, probably everyone is familiar with this concept, but just in case, these were smooth bore guns, so they shot spherical ammunition and did not put any rotation on it, making it far less accurate. It would be it's like when a pitcher throws a change-up ball or something. It moves around. Yeah. It just moves around in the air.
That was very accurate. Because you even got the ball.
Except a change-up kind of stay it'll kind of stay in the same area.
Yeah.
The musket could just keep going off.
It's here. I feel like this is an analogy that more people sadly will understand. It's like the game developers took the weapon spread and just like did it way out. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, I will say, yeah, no, there aren't a lot of misses, but I mean, I still think this is a positive. The action scenes are very well. We talked about the Tomahawk Massacre scene. That scene's obviously amazing. But I mean, also just the other militia ambushes are handled very well. I mean, they're very realistic. They're like literally just these because they're ambushing these like convoys that have like all these supplies, and they march through and they're just ambushing them from the forest.
I did have one issue with. I know for a fact I saw someone shoot a rifle
twice. So I was gonna just to piggyback off that. I was gonna say that also with the rifles, they hit everyone, and it was really inconsistent with when they had loaded and stuff like that. They could load extremely fast. You know, these kind of weapons are like 2 rounds per minute at most, and that's like getting after it. They loaded. Not only did they load fast, they fired twice. They would fire volleys twice. Yeah. Like there was this one scene where they, like, you know, when they did the fake retreat, boom, volley, retreat. They go and they lay down, and then they get up and they shoot again.
Yeah.
They
could have been. I will say though, on the ground, but you didn't see them.
I will say
that would have made the movie way better. I will say, if you were seeing them on the ground.
Yeah, like that's like that. They could have had the opportunity, like running back.
And then people would like throw away their ramrods when they were reloading. Yeah, I was like, you need that.
And then when Mel Gibson grabbed the flag, which is really the best part of the movie, by the way, he throws his pistol, which is kind of awesome because he's like, I don't even need it. I got this flag. I mean, and then he gets up to the big and he's got a pistol. It's still awesome.
No, but I will say in the ambush scene, he has all those rifles loaded when he's
That's why it was really good. The only part that I didn't like is also there was no like kickback with the rifles for the little boys, and they were beating.
I have a negative that I'll be interested to see if y'all agree with. The plot, obviously, very good and tight plot. Nothing doesn't make sense. Everything
makes perfect sense.
But about the war starts probably 30 minutes into the movie, and it ends probably.
Well, the war's going on at the beginning. I'd say the war's going on at the beginning. It's just
I mean like the battles.
Yeah, the battles. You're talking about the battles in the movie.
Yeah, in the movie. The battles in the movie start about 30 minutes into the movie, and they end about 10 minutes before the movie ends.
Yeah.
And in that very large section of the movie, nothing much changes. No. It's just battle, and there isn't a lot of plot as far as the plot like progressing. It's more just like how.
But I still think the pacing's good there. It doesn't like slow to a halt.
I wouldn't have
just kind of, and it's very interesting. It doesn't get less interesting.
Yeah, the humor comes on.
Yeah, it doesn't become less interesting. Like the sets, everything keeps you interested, but the plot is like very like you're like after they'll win some skirmish battle and you're like, well, why did they do that? And then they'll go and keep battling, you know. So it's basically just battle for most of the movie.
I have to give another. So you were talking about the recoil. Well, I would say though the sound effects on this movie are amazing. This new movie was nominated for best sound, and it didn't win. Unfortunately, I don't know why. Because in this movie, you hear every gunshot wound. Like you know when somebody gets nailed. Like you hear that sound, and also just the sound of the guns firing and the cannons firing. It's just amazing to me.
Dude, I did see another thing that I saw a couple times. I saw a couple of people get shot in the stomach and start to bleed out of the mouth.
Yeah.
That's not real.
Yeah.
Start bleeding.
But then again, though, the special effects though are mostly very good.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, there's literally. I mean, most notably, there's a scene where a guy obviously you have the scene where the guy gets his head taken off, and a guy with his leg taken off. Yeah. But there's also a pretty gnarly scene where a guy is surrendering and he gets shot, and literally a split of blood comes out the back. It's a very brutal movie, and that's realistic.
Yeah, and to me, like. You can't have a war movie, battle movie without.
You can't have a non-R-rated.
Very
This movie had to be R-rated.
It's R-rated.
I thought it was to me
like
it's 13.
No, it's R-rated.
To me, like PG-13 like war movies just kind of don't hit. And
it could have been PG-13 if they had gone for a little bit less violence. But
I
think. No. I'm saying
it was very clean besides the violence.
But it needed to have the violence.
It did because
that would not be the same about the violence.
The Revolutionary War.
But I also love how with every time a guy gets shot, you see a spurt of blood. That's realistic.
It'd be like
I hate movies where it's like people get shot and they just fall down. It's like you don't see anything.
Except for in like newer movies because. I feel like it's a little more justified.
Yeah,
like it's like way smaller bullet, and they're wearing like tactical
Yeah, but
armor.
these are mini bullets.
Yeah, these are like
that would hurt, and that would spray a lot of blood.
Yeah, like
but,
so yeah, I think the violence is necessary.
I think the violence. It's a very realistic movie. But I would say this is a nitpick, but there's a couple times I think they missed a few opportunities for some cool action sequences. All right, in particular, I think they missed an opportunity for a cool action sequence when Gabriel, after the Charlotte's plantation is being burned, they get rescued, and then Martin is like lures the British away, and it's just implied that he led them off and then escaped, obviously, to return to his family at the beach settlement. However, it would have been cool to see the chase because the dragoons are on their tail. I think it cuts away and doesn't show what happens, and that was a missed opportunity. That could have been a cool action sequence.
Dark Knight when Batman jumps out of the hotel.
Oh yeah.
Joker's in the hotel,
and it just doesn't resolve that.
Wait. What happened?
Yeah. That's not like a negative. It's just kind of like a missed opportunity. Yeah.
One thing that I also did not like.
This movie's not full of those. It takes advantage of most of it.
It takes advantage of every action scene.
Yeah.
But one was on the accessibility to muskets everywhere. I just felt that was a little bit much.
Especially
the farmers, every single farmer had like
multiple.
Yeah. Or like
I kind of understood that. I mean, in this era, they were to hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, and they would.
The Americans would not have they were struggling to have enough firearms.
Yeah.
Every single dude would not have.
Oh yeah. I understand why Benjamin had.
For sure.
Every guy that came in signing up in the bar had like a musket here, a rifle here, and like another musket.
Which, by the way, that's one of the great humor-filled scenes is when he's like, "God save King George" in this tavern to see if these are like guys they need.
And everyone brings out their muskets.
And it's just like you can hear the cocks and stuff.
All right, I'll say one more thing, and then we'll move on from negatives, and we can go to the historical part.
I have one more as well.
I would just say that obviously the tension is great with the main character, but as far
about themes
as
first, actually, before
epicness and the scale, the Revolutionary War is a very large event. That could have been very epic as far as like how it was going on different fronts. It's not a very epic movie. The scale is not very.
But that's not the story,
dude.
No, it's not.
Dude, what are you talking about? They had thousands of.
Yeah, I do think it was epic. I'd say that was an epic movie.
I would compare that epicness to like Kingdom of Heaven.
Well, yeah, I mean.
Well, as far as the story, yes.
No,
the story
is. I'm not saying the story is like wrong or anything. I'm saying from a movie standpoint. As a negative, like the scale of the movie is about this family.
I'd say it's an epic movie.
I'd say the cinematography made it an epic movie by putting the camera behind the soldiers of the multiple rows.
I'd say when you have thousands of
shots.
Well, in one sense, in the sense that you're saying, I do get like the scale is turned down from movies like Kingdom of Heaven. Like it wasn't like the state. I mean, like the stakes were high.
It's about one man and his family,
right? But as far as like from a logistics standpoint, they got a lot of soldiers on screen.
Yeah, I know. I'd say that's pretty epic, honestly.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like the Revolutionary War is a very large event. Yeah. And it's obviously the stories about a man and his family and their involvement in the war, and so you can't like sacrifice that. But like you can't say, "Ooh, great Revolutionary War movie, Patriot." It's more about Mel Gibson and his family.
Yeah, but it is a Revolutionary War movie.
And it sacrifices like epicness and scale in the name of that.
Does it sacrifice it, or does it not really focus on it?
I guess it chooses not to include it.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason,
I'd still say it's pretty epic.
All right, can we do themes now?
But I have one more thing. I have to elaborate on this because it's one of my biggest positives. This is one of my favorite shot scene in the movie is the scene. This is a positive on the cinematography. Is the scene where Gabriel goes to get revenge on Tabington after he burns the church. He and a handful of patriots, including the Reverend, of course, try to get revenge, and it's just all shot in slow mo, and it's just the tension builds up over the course of the scene, and it gets down to you get to see every guy that gets shot, and you're just like, God, it's got to be Gabriel, and then it's just like the Reverend is trying to reload as fast as he can to shoot Tabington, and he sacrifices himself and gives Gabriel the rifle.
Definitely.
It's just the way it's shot is so beautiful.
Because in the trailer, the slow mo was like super blurry because you don't have enough camera frames per second. Yeah. So it's like,
but that scene
they didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
It was back in 2000, so it wasn't taking nearly as many. So it was more like blurs.
Yeah.
But they did it better in the movie. Like
that scene was
that's in the movie.
That's
way better than the trailer.
That's the most. That's the best slow motion action scene in the movie.
So let's go ahead and move
but
on.
I promise this is my final thing. But this movie I talked about how it builds tension from a large scale perspective, but also just in individual scenes. This movie does a great job of building tension, most notably in the plantation scene. Because I didn't get to give all mine out. Most particularly in the plantation scene when they're coming into the house and you have the boys hiding under the table. It's just like you're like there. You're just like, come on, dude, you got it. You can't be killed. We've already had too many people get killed in this movie. And it's just a great job of building tension. It also does a great job of building the tension on when they're burning Benjamin's farm. So yeah, that's just a positive of the movie. Roland Emmerich did a great job of directing a very tension-filled movie and building that tension.
All right,
themes.
Themes.
Yeah,
Nate,
your themes.
themes.
Now, what's the overarching theme for you?
Yeah, there's actually crickets outside. I wonder if that'll be like here below my.
Well, I think the biggest theme in this movie.
Nate,
Okay, you want to go first? Well, I don't know. He was waiting for me. I was going to give him time.
I wasn't waiting.
If you say like patriotism,
I would say revenge.
Flames.
I think revenge is the main theme. I think patriotism is a theme. For sure.
But it's called the Patriots. I'm maybe.
Yeah, I think it's the secondary.
Well, one thing I'd say dedication.
Yeah.
Because one thing they keep bringing up is stay the course.
Yeah.
And it's almost like how much is he willing to sacrifice to this cause, you know?
So much great dialogue in this movie, by the way.
Yes, I'd
Like
say
so much great
dedication
compelling
is the
dialogue.
big theme
Great
of the
screenplay.
movie. So revenge, dedication, patriotism.
I would say like journey, like personal journey.
Yeah.
Like, for like everyone. Everyone in that movie had like a personal journey.
Yeah. I love it. Specifically, I love how the character Benjamin Martin has to like I said, he has to he has to put his demons beside him, and and he has to he has to really do all he can to protect his family. But then again, he has to put on that face, that war face to do so.
Priorities.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously it's unclear. Obviously, the priorities of he's like, I'm not willing to sacrifice my family for this cause, and then he sees he has to. But also, it just shows through the movie how much everybody has to sacrifice and how much good that gets. This great country that we get from that. So it's like the priorities. Everybody puts their own stuff aside to help this cause. And it's like, is it worth it? How much am I willing to sacrifice? So I think priorities are.
I think a big thing in this movie is revenge. Obviously, that's kind of the inciting. The inciting incident is that Thomas gets killed, and Benjamin immediately wants revenge, and he goes and massacres the whole regiment of redcoats and rescues his other son. But then that theme of revenge continues. It's implied that that's his main goal. Like, he's fighting in the revolution, but ultimately it's to avenge his son. And ultimately, in the end, I think the theme of patriotism for Benjamin comes through. And he, I think in that pivotal scene where you have Benjamin in that final battle, the Colonials are winning the battle. He's looking to fight Tavington. Oh, no, they're not winning the battle yet. They're actually retreating. Mm-hmm. And he's wanting to go fight Tavington, but he knows that he has to put his personal matters aside and risk it all for his men. And he throws his gun away and he gets the American flag and he charges and rallies his men. And then ultimately later he does get his revenge. But and honestly, I think it would be an interesting discussion to talk about who is the real ultimate patriot, Gabriel?
I think it's Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson, okay.
Yeah, because I think
Gabriel or Benjamin.
I think that Gabriel turned Benjamin into the.
They're both patriots. They're both patriots
because he believes in it by the end of the movie.
Who's the titular character?
At the beginning, he has what he needs to be the patriot, physically and mentally. But he's not dedicated. Gabriel, on the other hand, is all in, but he's not the ghost.
Yeah, he's not the goat.
Yeah, the goat. So he kind of turns Mel Gibson into the ultra mega super patriot.
I think my theme is family.
Oh yeah,
that's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Elaborate.
Papa.
That will never leave you, bro. That will never leave you.
Not only his family, but also his whole country and like his family and like his men, you know, that like I don't know, like
and
I love in the trailer. Speaking of family, in the trailer, there's this line that comes on the screen. It's like before they were soldiers, they were family.
they were family.
That's such a great line.
The guy who kills himself because his family dies. What's his name? Gabriel. He goes and gets killed because he was starting a family and then it ended. Mel Gibson was torn apart. You know, like it's all driven by family.
And that's the one thing that the British guys never had.
No.
Yeah.
Even
it's almost like because I was thinking freedom and I was like, no, not really freedom. It's more about family. It's more about like.
Even the French guy is driven by family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
Dude, that
that's
line!
their
Oh my
common
gosh,
thread that
bro!
ties them together. They're
I
fighting.
love that scene where they're marching, and he's been very private about like his family. He's revealed that they got killed by the British on a boat and burned alive. But in that final scene, Benjamin's like, "How old were your daughters?" And he finally tells him, and he's like, "I'm sure." And Benjamin's like, "I'm sure they were lovely." And that line delivery where he's like, "Yes, they were." Yeah. It's just like it hits home, man. That's a good scene.
Going
that
back
actor
to
did a good job.
what was yours?
Priorities.
I really that one after he said it. That's a really good one because even in like you have a whole scene dedicated to that.
Yeah.
Like the church scene as well when she stands up and she's like, I
Where
think
are
she
your
said, "Where are your
priorities?"
priorities?"
Yeah. And it's like.
I asked that you
Yeah,
only
there's
act
scenes
upon
through
the
the movie
beliefs
that
of
show
which you
that
have so
walking
strongly
throughout the whole
spoken.
movie. It's like
Such a
it's
great
like where are
scene,
my
bro.
priorities?
Yeah.
It's my my family, and then you realize it's my I have to save my family while I serve my country. You know.
I mean, but ultimately, I do think we have to talk about really patriotism being a theme because it is about the American Revolution and the fight for freedom in our
As
country.
Americans, this movie just hits so deep.
Yeah, I know.
If you're not
That
moved
scene
by
in
this
the
movie,
church,
you're probably a
yeah.
communist.
That's that scene. That scene in the church where he, they just all good patriots rise, you know, and it's just very moving. And ultimately, this movie is about a war that was fought for the independence of America, and it's about the fight for freedom. And it's not so much focused on like the broad. You know, it's focused on perspective. It's focused on the perspective of this one man and his family. But they're fighting for their freedom too. I mean, they felt the oppression of the British, and they want to get rid of that. Benjamin hates the British. He wants his freedom.
Their family.
Yeah, I mean, I know, but
so
many great
I'm
themes.
very interested to move on to
History. I've done some research. I will say.
History.
I'll let you lead into it. I've done some research as well.
He's leaving.
But he has the props.
I have not.
Oh yes.
Oh,
Yes. Let's go.
Oh, do we have?
I'm excited for
Ooh,
this.
this is good.
There we go.
Yes.
Watch out, man! Don't do me like
So-
Gabriel did that one dude in the movie.
Yeah.
bro.
So I'm gonna say this, and this is gonna sound like a corny one-liner, but this is actually true. My father built this rifle.
Wait, actually?
Really?
Yes.
What?
That's weird.
No.
Yes.
Built it?
He built this
That's
rifle.
crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, can I see it?
Yeah.
See how
Father.
good he is at like.
We didn't all call our dad's father.
Well, it was more cool if I said my father built this rifle. If I was like my dad built this gun,
My
then
daddy built this gun.
You could say Papa.
my papa.
That would hurt.
Oh, that's
Must
pretty
have had a
cool.
good snap.
So this is.
Dude, we need to like we should like reenact
He's got a
the
bunch of these muskets, but he's waiting for the like.
yeah, after this we're gonna reenact.
Now this is not a period accurate rifle, and this is a rifle. This, the difference being the bore on the inside, and as you can tell, this is percussion cap. The action is different. It's more reliable, and they became mass produced like after like the 1790s or something, and so this would not have been available. They were using a flintlock percussion
Which is why
action.
We were saying like them being so accurate is crazy.
Not
And
only were they
tell us how many shots they can shoot before reloading.
one.
Like,
One.
Shot.
And if you load in more than one, then
saw them shoot too.
that's weird.
It
Now,
could have been a little more.
There's
There's too much shooting to really.
but the reason I bring this up is this was a hunting rifle. This design was a hunting rifle that was popular in the colonies before the war, and so true to history, you saw this rifle in the movie a lot with the militia because this is what they would have been carrying. It was a hunting weapon primarily. This was known as the Kentucky or Pennsylvania rifle. The main difference being the drop on the stock here. And as you can see, the curvature, the drop, I think it's quite beautiful on this stock. And you saw it a lot in this movie. Another characteristic that you can notice is different from the military rifle is that it's got no configuration for a bayonet. And so you could also see in the movie where the militia was not carrying bayonets, which I'll get to the bayonets in a second. I have thoughts on that.
That's kind of go back to what me and Oliver were saying about, like, why do they all have guns? John was like, well, they probably a lot of them are hunters. Well, it makes sense they'd have hunters.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I totally did not see that there was actually a difference. So
yeah,
that just plays.
There
so
was
much
a difference.
I don't know why, but you just get this feeling, and that you get it's just that feeling you're getting that scene when he just goes to get all of his guns, and he means business.
That's
it's in America. This movie on the 4th of July slaps so.
And we're watching on July 14th, so it's not that far.
It's not that far.
Not that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is not a military rifle. Actually, it's not a man-killer. This is a... This is a 50 caliber.
Unfortunately, what we don't have is an authentic Cherokee tomahawk.
We do not. Yeah. We do not. I've got more rifles. I'll save that for whenever we do a Civil War movie because that will... But what I can do is show you a couple other stuff that's just pretty cool from this era as far as military stuff.
And credit to Nate for being able to like spot that in movies. Like that's awesome.
It's our history.
Okay. Oh, that's what he asked.
Okay, so this is what would carry your powder. I wonder if I have any powder in this right now. Yeah, I do. Okay, check it out. So this is a powder cartridge. This has got about 50 grains, of black powder.
Dude, reenact the way Tavington bites it off.
Well, you would bite it off. That's the way they actually did it. Yeah, you would bite the front off. So that, you could tear it with your hand if you wanted, but so.
Nick, how far could one of these rifles shoot?
And actually, hit somebody.
I don't know. I wish I could tell you. I don't know. But
because that's one thing in the movie that you could say was exaggerated.
Was the distance?
Yeah, I will say the most notable what am I trying to say? That definitely is seen when Tavington shoots that one guy with a pistol from 100 yards away.
Yeah, like they have horses riding at least 80 or 90 yards away, and he just beats them with a pistol.
Yeah, that'd be a really hard shot. You'd be lucky too.
It's a movie.
A cartridge like this during the Civil War would have included a bullet on top, not a ball bullet, and it would have gone in with it, and you could have simply, after pouring it down, taken the ramrod out and rammed it, and then primed the percussion, and you would have been ready to go. But the way that they actually did it during the Revolutionary War is they used a powder horn, which I have a powder horn. I don't know why I didn't grab it. So you would have. No, I'll go all the way back.
Nate, how long would it take to reload the rifle?
So if you're like a good soldier and you're keeping your cool, you can shoot 2 of these per minute.
Did you hear that? 2 per minute.
Yeah.
And in the movie, they did it.
If you're an inexperienced soldier, if you drop something, if you're just slow that day, it's going to be less. And so, so they would do the powder horn on top, and then which made it also. This is another reason why it was inconsistent because the measure was always different. You could hardly get the same amount of powder. And then, in goes the ball. Out comes the ramrod. See if it'll come all the way out here.
And it's coming there.
Looks like whoever made it was real idiot.
Boom, we're packing it with the ramrod, which during reenactments, you actually skip that part for safety reasons because people shoot ramrods at each other.
Fun fact.
Which is pretty funny because when I started out and I was like a quote-unquote noob, I was doing it, everybody was like, whoa, stop putting that ramrod in there. And then it comes to the hip. And you're gonna prime it. They would prime it with a piece of flint, which I don't know exactly how that works because I've never done it. But with this, you put a percussion cap on it. So this is a beautiful rifle.
I love in the movie while you're going on about prop the attention to detail with how they there's a really cool scene where they had to do a systematic retreat, and it's the scene where they lose this battle, but they're all lined up one row after another, and the dragoons ambush them. But they do a systematic retreat, and one line fires, and the next line fires after they move. They could have had them all fire and been like, no, but they would have been killed. The guys in front of them.
It was good, but the militia did that, so I wasn't I was like, how? I wish we would have seen their training. Yeah. Because you couldn't judge, did they even have good training at all? Did they have a lot of training, the time?
Yeah, here comes the bayonet. So I can't put it on the
guy gets absolutely impaled.
This is for a military rifle. This is really close to the model that they were using on screen, which is really cool. Bayonets were made in triangle shapes because triangle shapes are really hard to stitch up so that they would bleed to death. bayonet charges and bayonet fights were very rare in Napoleonic warfare, actually, which is very interesting. I read a memoir from a Prussian Prussian cavalry commander who fought for the South during the Civil War, and during his experience, he fought for about 3 years in the war, and he only saw, or he didn't even see it, he heard of one bayonet charge happening. And, So, that's pretty crazy. So, I've been waiting for this one, but, I'll tell you what. You guys talk about something else real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I've got a demonstration to do.
All right.
Oh well, yeah. But what were you saying about you said you would have liked to see.
I would have liked to see the training because, like you were saying, they did it so well. The retreat. I would have liked to actually know.
Honestly,
should they have done their retreat?
Let's talk about costumes really briefly.
The costumes are cool.
Yeah, because
I've read that they're pretty accurate.
I just want to give kudos to the costumes because I don't know if they're super accurate. Like it said,
I read that they are.
One thing about this movie, you feel like
they consulted with the Smithsonian Museum.
Big
institution.
I feel like when you watch a war movie, you can be like, oh, it's all going to be fields and camps, and they're all going to have uniforms on. But there was so much diversity in what they would.
Well, the militia would just have these random uniforms on.
Militants would have the white shirt, the weird the puffy shirt, with the straps
the boots
on it.
And all everyone was wearing awesome boots.
The French dude had the cool French outfits. The red coats, obviously, kind of a cool iconic costume. The different costumes kept people very much.
So this is in 1862 Richmond. This was a completely Confederate manufactured weapon. Yeah. So this, now, as you can tell if you've watched the movie, this looks a lot like the weaponry they were using, especially with the chrome finish. Although the chrome finish wouldn't have stayed on for very long. But here, I want to do a little demonstration. Who wants to be my guinea pig? You want to do it? I want Oliver to do it, actually. I just now thought I want Oliver to do this. Okay, so Oliver, if you'll stand up and hold the rifle for me.
Yes, sir.
So I want you to shoulder it like you're going to fire, aim at something over there. Try to hold it up for about 10 seconds.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
10.
Got him.
Got him. Now, that was pretty heavy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's really heavy.
After about 10 seconds, it's hard to keep that straight.
I mean, that was the other thing. The kids were running with their dad, and they were holding, the same rifles, right?
Yeah, very similar. No, that's not the same rifle, but it would be very similar.
Yeah, well, the same rifles to the dad. Mm-hmm. I'm saying they were all carrying the same rifles.
They were Chads.
And they were just running, just as fast.
Imagine your dad just all
But guys, I'm not done with the experiment here. That was the first part of the experiment.
Dang.
Hand me the rifle now.
Imagine your dad just goes into absolute beast mode.
Yeah.
We're going to kill some red-faced boys. Those guys must have been terrified.
Okay. Now it has a bayonet. Oh, now it has a bayonet installed. Now I'm gonna ask Oliver to do the same thing. 10 seconds.
Oh my gosh, it's so much heavier.
3, 4, 5, 6.
They're just doing this so they can look at me.
If Oliver wasn't so jacked.
Very funny.
Now tell me, how much harder was it to hold it straight?
It was a lot harder with the bayonet.
What is it? Now I'll ask you this. Did you notice when they were shooting, were they shooting with them on or off? On. And so that's that was just a really complicated.
Well, remember that one scene where there's that young British soldier, and he holds the gun totally inaccurate. He's like this.
Yeah. I saw some scenes where they were holding it down like this, and they literally closed their eyes. And I was like, they would have aimed. Number one, number two, they wouldn't have the bayonets on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I was about to demonstrate. So. They'll put, I guarantee you that they put the bayonets on there because they looked cool. Because they do the exact same thing whenever, they go out to parade and reenactments because it just looks awesome, right? But the problem is that the accuracy of a regiment will noticeably decrease whenever you have the bayonets on. And so, as a rule, they would always have them off unless they were about to charge.
I bet even, the bullet could hit the bayonet. I bet.
I mean, it's just unnecessary. Yeah. I mean, it's like 3 pounds on the end, and so it's just. I noticed that.
Go ahead.
No, that was the whole
I was just saying,
thing.
we were talking about while you were up there, though. Unless you have any more guns to show us about costumes,
and
how they're. I know that they consulted, and worked with the Smithsonian Institute. First film ever to work with the Smithsonian Institute.
Really?
For for historical accuracy. And so I think they did get most of the costumes.
I wouldn't be able to tell you, honestly.
I can't tell you either. I've just read. I mean, they look very authentic.
I can't say if they're authentic.
Yeah.
They looked very cool. There's a lot of cool variety.
It's just so much good period detail.
All I can say,
great period piece. Great period.
All I can say is that I once visited the museum at the Battle of Bunker Hill in Boston, and they had old uniforms there for British and American, and they look the same.
Yeah.
So that's all I can say about
that.
that.
Should conclude that section, and we should go to.
They weren't red.
I said they look the same.
We should go ahead and go to our final reviews of the movie.
Oh, well, no. We gotta talk a little about the historical characters, bro. All right, so we got Benjamin Martin. Was he real?
I don't know.
No, he was not. So I did a little bit of research on this dude. No, he was not real, so I didn't do research on him. But I did find out that he is based on 4 real-life people. 4? He's a composite character based on the lives of several people, real-life individuals. Most notably, he is based the exploits that he in the movie are derived from the life of a guy named Francis Marion. He's also loosely based on real-life historical characters such as Nathaniel Greene, Thomas Sumter, and there's one other guy that. Dan Morgan, possibly? A guy whose last name is Morgan. I'm forgetting his first name. But anyway, so he is a composite character based on these 4 real-life individuals. I don't know if y'all know anything about Francis Marion.
Mm-mm.
Well, anyway, Francis Marion was a guy in South Carolina who did lead a colonial militia and set in big ambushes against the British and proved very pivotal to the U.S. war effort, just as Benjamin Martin and his militia do in the movie The Patriot. He was a farmer, just like Benjamin Martin. He did not have 7 children, though. Most of the character Benjamin Martin is fictional, but he is loosely based primarily on this guy Francis Marion. There's a lot of controversy actually over his kind of being inspired by Francis Marion, because Francis Marion was a pretty controversial dude. He was a pretty rough and tumble guy who actually liked to he would kill Indians on his farm for fun. So he was a pretty rough guy, but and he did own slaves, unlike Benjamin Martin in this movie, who actually hires these freedmen to work for him on his plantation. But and I think the character of Nathaniel Greene, he's actually present in this movie. At the end, he's a general, but in the Continental Army. But Ben Martin actually had some characteristics of Nathaniel Greene, especially in that last battle. He's kind of in the role of
Nathaniel Greene is my favorite. Not just because he's my namesake, but Nathaniel Greene. But it is spelled different, by the way.
Sure
really?
Yeah,
it is spelled different. It's AEL. How do you know that? So Nathaniel Greene was the right-hand man of George Washington until he went south and fought the British in the Southern Campaign, and he was so good at losing but not losing for sure, just like Washington. There's this, I love this quote. It's my favorite quote of the Revolutionary War. It was in a letter that Nathaniel Greene wrote to George Washington after the war was over, and he said, I have it written on a card in my room, but let me see if I can remember. It says, "Don't you think that we bear beating very well, and the more we are beat, the better that we grow?"
That's Nathaniel Greene?
That's Nathaniel Greene.
So actually, I was mistaken. Not Nathaniel Greene. So he's a composite character based on 4 historical men: Andrew Pickens, Francis Marion, Daniel Morgan, and Thomas Sumter. So he's primarily based, as I said, on Francis Marion. But I think Thomas Sumter was a leader in the Battle of Cowpens. And that is the battle that is portrayed somewhat fictitiously at the end of this movie. That is the Battle of Cowpens.
Not the last scene, excuse me, the last battle.
The last sequence, yeah. That is the Battle of Cowpens.
Yeah, them standing around that house, that was the Battle of Cowpens.
The Battle of Cowpens was actually a very pivotal turning point in the war, as the movie implies. And ultimately, they besieged Cornwallis at Yorktown in 1781 in Virginia. But now, what about the character of William Tavington? He was not real. However, he is also based on a real-life character, although very loosely. That real-life character is one Banastre Tarleton. This was a he was a British cavalry officer that fought primarily in the Southern Theater of the War in South Carolina, and he was known for being a very brutal commander, and he earned the moniker the Butcher from the populace, and he was just known among the colonials as this ruthless cavalry officer. However, it's also controversial that this character of William Tabington is based on Tarleton, because Tarleton. So one of the things that happened that made Tarleton kind of infamous was his cavalry regiment massacred a regiment of surrendering colonials at the end of a battle. It alludes to this at the beginning of the movie when Gabriel's like they rode right into them when they were surrendering. And that is inspired by a real life battle. I believe it was called the Battle of Waxhaw Farms, I believe, which is a weird name. But
there's a lot of weird battle names.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
but
that's not creative. Like,
yeah,
how do you use something like way more like moving?
Yeah.
Like,
so in this battle, Tarleton, the colonials took it as if Tarleton had ordered the massacre. However, the loyalists, because many of his cavalry regiment were loyalists, just like in the movie. Yeah. There's that loyalist who fights for him. Their account of the battle was that Tarleton got shot. His horse got shot from under him, and they believed that shot was fired by the colonials. And so they then massacred the remaining colonials that were surrendering. However, it's not really clear what exactly happened. We'll never know. Yeah. But that's how Tarleton kind of earned his moniker, the Butcher, and that's why obviously this character of William Tabington is so brutal in this movie. But he's probably portrayed a bit more negatively in this movie than the actual real life person was, because Benaster Tarleton, fun fact, actually did not die in the movie in real life. He actually went back to
He's still alive today.
He actually went back to England and got elected to Parliament. So
that's awesome. What if that's how it ended? And he went back to England and was elected to Parliament.
Not for this dude. This guy needed to die, but he also what was I going to say? He did another inaccuracy is that Tabington is portrayed as coming from kind of a rich family that lost all their wealth, and he's now penniless. However, the character of Benaster Tarleton, his family never lost. They were rich, and they never lost their wealth. He was wealthy. He was over there fighting for more land, not just land to live on. So, and of course, we have to talk finally about the portrayal of war atrocities. We kind of hinted at this, but obviously it's very controversial that a lot of atrocities are attributed to the British, and we did talk about how they're also attributed to the Americans in this movie. I think it's a fair portrayal of war crimes.
One scene that
the church burning scene.
No. I can only think of one scene that the Americans committed a war crime.
Well, no, but I know, but it also, but it portrays Americans.
Trading troops, yeah.
That's it. But it portrays a lot of these guys as like they're just like every red coat should die no matter what.
Yeah, I think there's two American war crimes.
Yeah. And also,
is it a war crime because theoretically they had guns?
Ukraine commit a war crime right now to Russia? Not really. They're being invaded,
Yeah.
So like.
Well, the concept, we could go into this another time, but the concept of war crime is like the same as international law. It's a very muddy one.
Yeah.
Like what? It's almost like a
moral right.
No, I mean like even the term war crime is almost like it's self-defeating principle.
Yeah, because chemical warfare has been illegal since, or it's been a war crime since right after World War I. I think 1 year after the war, it became a war crime, and like every country stockpiles chemicals.
Yeah. So except the United States. Last week we actually destroyed our last stockpile of chemical weapons.
Really?
That's actually crazy timing. But point is, it's like
way to let China know, Nate.
It's like it's a war crime. Until like one person uses it, then we're all good, So like it's a war crime, but it's like until we all.
Just to harp on the Ukrainian conflict, we just sent cluster bombs over them. They're calling that a war crime.
Yeah. Is it like? Forgive them for don't use too effective missiles. It's kind of like when the guy's like, don't shoot our colonels. It makes it very difficult for them. Gibson's like. I think we're gonna keep doing that.
But ultimately, the most controversial scene in the movie regarding war crimes is the burning of the church, and that did not necessarily happen in real life. It's very effective as a tension builder in the movie, but we have no record of the British ever burning a church in real life.
One thing that Noah was just talking about was he asked them to stop shooting. What?
or the higher ranking.
The higher ranking guys, and then I felt like that was very. He wouldn't have asked for that, because he knew. Because as soon as he asked that question, he got an answer, and he was like, "I agree with that." Yeah. So he knew. So I feel like that was just kind of dramatic.
So, that was principle, because in all wars fought up to that point, they had never targeted officers.
Yeah. So.
But, I mean, it's like when your country's being invaded and they're killing civilians. It's like the gloves are off type thing, and that's kind of what Mel Gibson said. He was like, "You can't ask me to do this after what's happening." And Oliver said, he was kind of like, "Yeah."
Well, it's because
the other guy
had done it, and Cornwallis was actually kind of honorable.
Yeah,
he was. Well, until
By the way, Cornwallis was a real person, and he is. His name was
really?
Also,
I did not know.
His corn, a hole in the wall. I don't.
And they did, but for some reason they did keep his real name in the movie. His name was Cornwallis.
Which
But the church burning scene was very controversial, especially in Britain when this movie came out. They were like, "Oh, y'all just hate British people." But I think it works really well in the movie. I think that
you know what, the British can go frick themselves.
But like Nate pointed out, I think it's portrayed as it's just this one psychopath that's just out to destroy lives.
Cornwallis and that other rando British dude. He's rolls up and he's like, "Of course we won't kill your people. We'll help y'all." And then the higher ranking guy pulls up and he's like, "Kill everybody." And he's like, "Okay."
I feel bad.
Yeah, and he's faking.
He walks up and it's this dramatic moment. It's like, "Oh no, the British are here." And he walks up and he's like, "Thank you for taking care of His Majesty's soldiers."
I feel bad for the guy, but I also don't feel bad for him because he was a coward and he just went along with killing innocent, civilian soldiers. But just for clarity, this church burning scene that's not necessarily based on fact, but it was very controversial. But I think that the movie, it's a movie, it's fictitious,
it works for me.
It's historical fiction.
But so overall, this movie it gets a lot of minor things right, and it gets a lot of the broad stuff. Right, it gets a lot of that historical detail in there.
Way to go ahead and
but it does have some inaccuracies.
Our final reviews of the movie.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to hear, Oliver's our guest today, and as the minor filmmaker, amateur filmmaker, I want to hear your uninterrupted thoughts on this movie.
Yeah, your final thoughts. Wrap up.
I thought that the movie was made amazingly. The plot was flowing the whole time. There wasn't a part. I have written a couple sketches for comedy, so 3 2-minute sketches, and currently I'm writing the screenplay. And one thing that I found very hard that I fall in a lot, that I accidentally do all the time, I make really boring lines that stretch into scenes. And I'll make a really boring part, right? But maybe the beginning and the ending were dramatic or whatever, and grab your attention. But this movie, there was not even a lot. There was one line that I might have drawn out of the movie, and that's when she misquoted. Not when she misquoted, when she said a quote that was not from them. Yeah. We could look that up. I don't know.
Oh, well, you're talking about the free. Oh yeah. That was anachronistic.
Definitely. But besides that, everything just kept me in it, and that's something.
It was a great screenplay. So Robert Rodat. I mean, come on, he had just come off of Saving Private Ryan, and I mean, he followed it up beautifully with this movie because I mean, there's just so much compelling dialogue.
There's beautiful scenes in it too. I really thought there were some beautiful scenes. The scene where my favorite scene. There's two of my favorite scenes. One of my favorite scenes, battle and action-wise, is when he walks out of his house while it's nighttime, and then you just hear the cannon. Yeah. It was amazing. And that.
What was your favorite dialogue scene?
Oh, favorite dialogue scene.
Ooh. You were talking about
that's gonna be tough.
You're writing one right now, bro. You should have some that you should.
I'm gonna have to say the Papa scene when she runs. That's just it literally wrenches your heart. It's the whole movie has been digging into your heart, and then it goes, and then you're like,
it's please talk.
My favorite,
just
Papa.
And then she's like, "Don't leave." And
honestly,
I can't.
So honestly, my favorite dialogue scene. I love the scene when after Gabriel dies and he's talking to Harry Burwell, the colonel, and he's just like, "Stay the course," and he says, "I've run my course."
My favorite dialogue scene is the parlay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the most juicy dialogue for me.
Juicy.
Yeah.
It is so
Juicy.
No, I mean it's very
All right,
it's good
so
stuff. Well, but what's your final rating for the movie, and what would you say to people who have not seen it?
What do I say to people that have not seen it?
And a final rating, 1 out of 10.
Oh, 1 out of 10?
1 to 10.
I would have to give it a... I feel like if I didn't give it a 10, it would be
10's
very
perfect, though. We don't usually do 10.
So it would be a 9.
A 9,
probably.
okay.
I wouldn't give it an 8 because it just
Right.
it hits me so hard.
Right.
Like, it's awesome. But my final ending statement for people that haven't watched it, number one, you should watch it. It's a really great movie. But it was also very moving. Even though it wasn't super morally, like it didn't go into depths of morals too much. You know what I mean? So like you were talking about, it's a very
but it was more moving that
Yeah.
way because especially as American, like the morals were so pure, and everything was so very patriotic.
it doesn't need deep morals because
But I think it makes up for that by having flawed characters.
Yeah.
Definitely, and it's super.
Like overall, the
simple.
Americans are portrayed as being, very patriotic, but you have these very flawed characters that are fighting for the American cause.
And I would have to say that it mainly keeps your attention the whole time because one thing that I was talking about, like that I stressed,
That's my favorite part of the
character
movie.
growth.
Pacing.
And everyone had a growth. Everyone had movement. When she was, when what's her name was watching her cottage or her plantation get burned down, she stayed there for a second. She was like,
That was
my
good.
life. That's
Yeah.
been burning.
I will
burning
say,
in
yeah.
front of my eyes. It wasn't like, okay, get the children and go out. She has her own story. Everyone in that movie had their own story. The guys that every guy in the militia had his own story, and that's what I take away.
I hate it a little bit on the actress who played Anne Charlotte, but in that scene she's great.
Definitely.
With that look on her face, she's just like, I just can't believe
And I'm
I'm
writing the
my
screenplay,
plantation.
and I now after watching this movie, it's gonna help me so much, just because now I'm like,
You should
it's a story about one person, but one person doesn't mean there has to be one.
So many great side characters.
Yeah.
So what's your message to this guy that's named Robert Rodat who wrote that?
Great job. That was an amazing movie.
Oh my
That
word.
was
All right, so I'll give my final thoughts. So first with a rating, I give this movie a solid 9. No, I give it like a 9.5 out of 10. I love this movie. It has it's so well directed by Roland Emmerich. His best movie by far. So well written.
Why are all of his movies so patriotic?
Yeah, he does Independence
And he's
Day.
German.
I know, right?
He did Midway. That's a good movie.
That's
But,
also patriotic.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
But not the old one, the new one. But so well directed, so well written, well acted on all fronts. Not just Mel Gibson. He's top billed, but I mean you have all these other great performances. Excellent cinematography, just throughout the movie with the action sequences, the dramatic scenes.
Actually, John, watch out! I'll show you the for the camera.
For real.
Yeah, look, this is just one
You can't really see, but
one scene.
It's just,
It's beautiful.
It's like poetry.
Yeah.
It's like
Caleb, so the cinematographer's name was Caleb Deschanel, and he did a great job with this movie of shooting this
The
movie.
angles were so moving,
I know,
like
right?
behind the soldiers. When they were
And then, I gotta get back here. Let me finish my notes. And then, I promise I'll let you get to it. But, finally, I would just say to anybody who has not seen this movie, watch it, especially if you're an American. It gets you fired up. It's inspiring. It's just a great movie. It's a great patriotic movie. It's also just a great story. Anyway, 9.5 out of 10.
9.6.
Okay, help me. I could get
We're doing very high.
You got to do 9.7.
sum it up for us.
For the record, I rated Kingdom of Heaven 9.7.
We're
mad, bro.
Yeah,
Kingdom
I
of
just
Heaven,
solid
he's a fan
numbers,
more,
guys.
man. That
So
beats
no.
everything.
And then The Last Samurai is 9.8.
Oh, so the Patriots moved up your list over here.
They're so also good. You can see how marginal.
Y'all
they
need
are.
to do bad movies so y'all can.
We're gonna do a bad historical movie. We're gonna do Pearl
We're
Harbor.
gonna do Batman versus Robin.
We're gonna do Pearl
Yes,
Harbor. Anyway.
Batman versus Robin.
What are your final thoughts?
This movie is an example of what happens when none of the parts of the movie production are done badly.
Mm-hmm.
When all of the different parts of the movie production are done good, this is what happens. This was a movie that was focused on telling a story. It wasn't focused on moving any sort of agenda on you. It just wanted to tell a really great story, and it succeeded.
In a really cool era of history.
This, if you know, we were all lucky to have watched this movie. This movie has graced our eyes. It was. I think Oliver put it best. It was poetic.
Yeah.
It was a piece of art, truly.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to be the party pooper, but like I just rate movies a little less high.
He's like a 5.
4. No, I give it an 8. An 8.
Why don't ever hate on me for ranking Kingdom of Heaven so low?
You rated Kingdom of Heaven 7.5.
No, I rated it 7.7.
Oh,
I would give him that an 8.
You haven't seen it though.
I've seen
Kingdom of Heaven? You said you hadn't seen it. The one about the Crusades?
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the movie that I had seen?
Oh, you had seen The Last Samurai.
Well, I'll give this one an 8. And I mean, I love it, especially because I'm American. Patriotic part really gets me. To me, the emotion, like this is a movie that's very emotional, like very emotional. And you don't want to be watching a movie and just feel like, you know, you want to get involved, and you can get involved in this movie. It's a great 4th of July movie, and all the elements of it really work. To me, it's not like the most epic movie ever, and you know, and for reasons like
it's very
that,
epic.
it's not as far as like super exciting. Like obviously, it's Revolutionary War, so and it is an exciting movie, but like as far as scale, epicness, and excitement, for reasons like that, it's not like my top movie ever, but like it's still one of my favorites. Definitely on my top 10, probably on my top like 7. Probably, yeah, really great movie. So definitely watch it, especially if you're American. And wait for.
I forgot to mention the score. The score of this movie. Just listen to one piece of the soundtrack, and then you want to watch this movie. That's my word.
Well,
Such a good
we can
score.
all agree it's a great movie, and y'all need to watch it. And you need to comment and smash the like and subscribe button, and let us know what you think.
Peace out.
My sons were better men.